Bonus podcast time, still celebrating an incredible Game 1 win with Tom Westerholm. A closer look at that fourth quarter. What worked? Was Draymond Green right about that shooting variance and all of that stuff? We'll break it all down right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. Thank you. Yeah, whatever. I'm not going to redo this start. Thank you for making this show part of your daily routine, and that means so much more than Monday through Friday. This is a 7-day-a-week podcast now because it's the NBA Finals. You demand more Celtics content, and I am, if nothing else, catering to your demands, always willing to do so. So 7 days a week. Locked On Celtics bonus podcasts. Free, available wherever you get your podcasts. Watch the show on YouTube. You can get this awesome view of the paint splatter background at a San Francisco hotel that I'm staying at because I, John Karalis, am here covering the Celtics and the NBA Finals for Boston Sports Journal. I've also written a book called The Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars, and I was one of the media voters for the Celtics 75th anniversary team. So what do we do on an off day after a huge Game 1 win? We keep celebrating a huge Game 1 win, and we'll do so with my good friend, Tom Westerholm, Tom_NBA on the tweets machine. Tom, what's going on?
Listen, if your listeners are that demanding and you're catering to them, I refuse to talk Celtics, and I will talk about anything else with you for the next 45
You are
minutes.
such a contrarian. You just cannot, look, I am a man of the people. I am here. I want to deliver. Tom, capitulate with me. Come to my side. Be a content creator.
We will talk Celtics.
Let's talk Celtics.
There's a little bit to talk about, so we can get into it.
There's a little bit. I mean, we can talk about other things. I walked by Twitter headquarters today. That was, something. Yeah.
And you should have redacted the redacted because then we could have all been free of this prison that we all live in.
Just go pull the plug.
Yeah.
I just stood outside and screamed, "I want an edit button" for 5 minutes, and no one let me in. So
I can't imagine why.
No. Elon, I'm outside. Let me in. Like Eric Andre with the All right, let's talk about the Celtics. I'm obviously in a good mood. I just walked through San Francisco. San Francisco, Tom, is it's a hilly town. You might not have known. There are many, many hills. And when you are a distinguished gentleman, such as myself, and a person whose work does not allow for as much gym time as one might hope, the hills, they seem bigger. I feel like I accomplished something. I might have climbed the equivalent of Mount Everest today. That's what I feel.
I often like when I'm thinking about cities in my head, and I'm like, this city is exactly like this city. I often think San Francisco and Worcester, just two
very, yeah.
No differences whatsoever.
No different whatsoever. I often, yes, I confused the something down here for Worcester. I don't know. I have nowhere to go with that. Let's just talk about the damn Celtics. Celtics win Game 1, courtesy of a perfect fourth quarter. So let's just start there because I literally just posted something on Boston Sports Journal, kind of going through top to bottom. And Draymond after the game was like, "Hey, look, we dominated for 40 minutes or so. We're good." So with that as the backdrop, first of all, I want to call BS because you were down at halftime, buddy. You didn't dominate. It's not like you were up 20 heading into the fourth and you let go of the gas and said, "Oops, we blew it. Our bad." that second quarter wasn't great either. The third quarter was very Warriors-y, but there's still, you came out and you tried to stop this and you couldn't. So push back on Dre, number one. Secondly, though, it's really dismissive of the Celtics execution. And so the first thing that stuck out in my mind here after looking at that fourth quarter again, especially the execution by the Celtics on both ends of the floor was almost perfect, and as perfect as you can expect of a team playing against another team in any setting, especially the NBA Finals.
Yeah, and I mean, the wild thing was how like the shots that they generated were all such. It wasn't. They made a lot of shots, and Derek White hit that 1-3 that was like, oh wow, these guys are on fire. But realistically, a lot of those shots were very makeable. I mean, I posted a screen cap of all of Al Horford's like wide open 3-pointers. Derek White had a wide open 3-pointer. Jaylen was scoring against like Jordan Poole. I mean, they're offensively, they just clicked. And, you saw the ball movement really kick up. You saw just kind of everybody in the right place at the right time. You saw what getting stops will do for your offense on the other end and how, that just kind of throws everything off defensively for the Warriors. But, I mean, you're right. Two ways. There was a 3-minute stretch there where the Celtics just completely failed to deal with Steph Curry in a coherent way, especially in the pick and roll. They take out Robert Williams, they downsize a little bit, and just take off completely from there. Jaylen Brown set him up. That one big lineup really knocked them all down. Celtics are up 1-0. I mean, it really was a pretty amazing quarter that way.
The Celtics hit 9 3-pointers in the fourth quarter. The first one was Jaylen on a pull-up. The last one was Marcus Smart on a pick and pop. And those were the only 2 of the 9 that didn't involve the ball touching the paint somehow. And all the others were assisted, although I will say one of those was that Derek White one where it wasn't really an assist because it was one of those kind of like NBA assists, the current ones, where he kind of like up faked Steph Curry, buried his shoulder into him, and then went up. I guess technically under the very liberal NBA rules, that I guess qualifies as an assist, but it probably shouldn't have. By the way, on that one, Marcus Smart, if you watch the replay, Marcus Smart is in the background and he kind of has like his arms crossed. And when Derek like puts his shoulder down and then comes back and then fires it anyway over Steph, Marcus does like this like scrunched face, like, and leans all the way back. It's like, and then it goes, and he's like, whoa. It was a very kind of fan reaction, like, oh, okay. Oh, hey, all right, Derek, way to go.
You're feeling it like that, Derek. Okay. All
right. Yeah, okay, we're into this now.
Yeah.
But aside from, okay, so that one was, everyone conceded. That one was like, okay, that's hot shooting. Yeah. Jaylen was feeling it. He pulled up over Jordan Poole. Fine. But all those other ones, paint touch, kick out. There was only one of the other ones. It was a Horford one. I think it was the second Horford one to make it a 6-point game. Tatum drives, paint touch, kicks it out to Pritchard in the corner, and then it's another swing. So it wasn't a direct paint touch assist. But the point is, all those other ones were. So it was very much collapse the defense, drive, kick. Okay, the Celtics aren't going to hit 9 of 12, but 7 of 12, not out of the question.
Looks.
Yeah.
Look, and part of the problem, right, was that Tatum was attacking and he was getting into the paint. He was kind of doing the collapsing. Like, we talked about the whole conversation after was Tatum was 3 for 17. Tatum was 3 for 17. The 13 assists, all of that. That's a pretty direct result of the way the Warriors were trying to defend him. The emphasis that the Warriors put on him. And, some of that, I mean, he did miss a lot of makeable shots, but like offensively, he did, the Warriors were pretty focused on slowing Jayson Tatum down. you can stop collapsing like that and you can get out to shooters. But that is going to make things a little bit easier for Jayson Tatum. Like, that's going to be the price you pay. Now, I do think there is a little bit too much of a swing toward like the Warriors have no answer for the Celtics. The Warriors are a, top 3 defense in the NBA. They are a very, very good basketball team. They will do some things better next game, but those are the trade-offs they are going to have to start making, right? Like, you're going to have to ease up a little bit on Tatum. That is going to open up other things. How that develops will be really interesting, and that could be what decides game 2. But I mean, this isn't just like a one-to-one get out and defend the three-point shooters better. It's like this was a chain reaction of things that were happening that the Celtics were doing to create some of those looks.
Yeah, I think the question for the Warriors is, are you okay with doing this again? Are you okay with giving them a lot of these shots? Are you okay with these guys taking those shots?
Right.
And if you sit there and subscribe to Derek White, Al Horford, Marcus Smart, they're not going to shoot like that again. If you truly, honestly believe that, then the Warriors will say, hey, we're going to do what we did. We're going to try it again.
Yep.
We'll have some counters in our pocket, but we'll do this again. And we feel good coming into the fourth quarter with a 12-point lead and hitting the Celtics with 5 straight buckets in the middle of the fourth quarter. I mean, if we're going to look at this from the Warriors' perspective, in fact, let me take a second here to talk about Built Bar, and then I'll come back to finish my thought about taking this from the Warriors' perspective in just a second. But first, let's talk about Built Bar. Granola bars. Granola bars are the big thing for Built. New Built granola bars, which is going to give you the crunchiness, the chewiness, and just a completely new style of Built Bar. We've talked about the Built Bar, the regular protein bar. We talked about the Built Puffs, which is basically a protein-infused marshmallow. Now you've wanted a granola bar. Built's going to give you a granola bar, same as the others in that, packed with protein and covered in 100% chocolate, but now you've got that crunch of a granola bar, and they're only like 150 calories, 4 grams of sugar. That's crazy in a snack that's going to taste that good. Head on over to Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your order every single time. So whenever you go to Built.com, cruise around because there's a ton of things. There's always a sale. There's always something. All right? Go check it out and use the promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off every single order at Built.com. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. I have a very important favor to ask you all. If you would take this survey that we've put together on the network to learn more about why listeners like you make this Locked On podcast, how we can make this Locked On podcast even better. This is your opportunity to tell us on the network what you like, what you don't like about Locked On Podcasts. Go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey right now to get started. It won't take you very long, and everyone that completes the survey gets a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards. To take the audience survey, go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey. I really do appreciate your help. Help make this podcast better. This is something I really want to do. I want to make this podcast as good as possible. If there's a way to make it better, let me know. I know one way to make it better. Bring Tom Westerholm back in. Yeah, buddy. That was a nice thing for me to say. Let's get
a nice thing for any of your listeners to say.
That would be a nice thing for if only one of my listeners, if only they would appreciate. There's actually plenty of love. I've looked through the YouTube comments. There's a fair amount of Tom Westerholm love. People like the underscore. So let's continue the thought process here from the Warriors' perspective. And really, honestly, like, I don't know, Tom, what do you think here? Do you think they need to change anything? Because they can say, all right, look, maybe the Celtics defense won't be as bad. Celtics will adjust in the first quarter. You won't see Steph going for 21. But let's just say you have an evenly matched first half, right? Celtics and Warriors is pretty close. You had one good quarter from the Warriors, the third quarter, like they always do. You go up to the fourth quarter, 12, and then the Celtics go on this crazy shooting rampage that this 3-point barrage that is statistically improbable to reoccur. All right, we'll put that nicely. So if you're the Warriors, you say, we're up 12. They hit us with a 7-0 run. We came back. We hit them with 5 straight buckets. They just have to answer with 5 straight buckets with Derek White hitting 2 shots. One of them was crazy. Al Horford hitting 2 shots. Things that were like, whoa. And Peyton Pritchard defending on the other end. And you're like, well, wait a second. This is Peyton Pritchard. Now, he did a great job. We can talk more about him later. But they can sit there and be like, look, Peyton Pritchard did a good job, but it's still Peyton. We can figure this out. So if you're the Warriors, how much do you have to change when you get into game 2?
I think you have to take a kind of a hard look at what you're doing, because here's the thing. Al Horford got a lot of wide open looks, right? He is a 47% three-point shooter in the playoffs, 46% three-point shooter in the playoffs. Like he's knocking him down. So you can't gamble on him missing. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, but like that's not a bet. That's not a good bet.
He's getting good looks and he's not knocking him down.
He's knocking him down. Now, the thing about Peyton Pritchard, I actually do want to bring him up now, is that it's going to be harder to play him off the floor because the Warriors don't have the type of size that other teams had, right? Like Jimmy Butler, yeah, you just go target Peyton Pritchard, you demolish him. But Peyton Pritchard in the fourth quarter, when Steph's a little tired from running around all the time for probably playing more minutes in game 2, Peyton Pritchard could kind of keep up with him, and he played really well. The thing about Pritchard is that he's going to work hard, right? Like Butler can shoot over him. The Celtics have played guys who can shoot right over him. It's a little harder for the Warriors because they're not quite as big as some of those teams. So those 2 things for starters. 3, 4, like 2 more reasons, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, all the Celtics needed to like basically kind of come back into that game and put themselves in a position to take over was one of those guys to get back to something slightly below average. And that's what Jaylen Brown did. He went on a little bit of a heater, got the Celtics back to within, 3 points or something like that. Al Horford takes over from there. I think there's enough worrisome stuff about like the way the Celtics hit the Warriors in that game that if I'm the Warriors, I'm kind of looking at it like I do think I do have to change some things up. I'll be 100% honest. I haven't watched enough of the Warriors to know like what those might look like. But I do think that like you can't look at that game and say, well, this is just like shooting variance. This is just something that happened. No, like Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum are probably going to be better next game. Peyton Pritchard is probably going to have repeatably makeable shots. Al Horford is probably going to have repeatably makeable shots if you stay with what you were doing. So, I mean, I certainly don't think it's like panic time for the Warriors or anything like that. I mean, they're a highly experienced, highly talented team on both ends. But, yeah, I don't think that you can just roll the same thing out there because you can't afford to lose again. Like maybe you can feel okay about like where you're at, but you can't just kind of be like, it'll probably be okay. Like, no, game 2 is like super must win. So, yeah, I mean, I would have some concerns if I were them.
More than a must win, super must win. This is super must win because it's game 2 of the finals. You can't go down.
You're already going 0-1. Like you can't even split on the
cannot. You cannot leave home when you had home court down 0-2. That's hard to come back from. I know the Warriors still can. And I have a very healthy fear of the Warriors, a very strong, deeply ingrained. And that's why, maybe some people are, I've seen not calling me out a little bit, but I know that some people are like, oh, whoa, you're not as, confident, or you're just kind of feels like you're just kind of hoping the Celtics win. Like, well, I think the Celtics can win. I thought that coming in. And obviously you go up 1-0, that's a big boost, but the Celtics were down 1-0 in the last 2 series and they won. So certainly not taking anything for granted. And I'm certainly I'm all about making the early call about when I think a series is over, but this series hasn't even begun in my opinion. So it's great.
Smart would agree with you, by the way. Marcus Smart would agree with you with his like arms folded, like it's not over. It's not over after they take game 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I do think the Warriors have some issues that they have to deal with. And number 1, Jordan Poole. If Poole is not going to be like, Poole can't be like what he was again. And if that's I don't know if that's what the Celtics did to him or if that's just an off game for him because he's young. For all the experience everybody has on that side, Poole doesn't have that experience. And so you can chalk up this to being like, well, jitters for him. If that doesn't rectify, then that puts the Warriors in a tough position because that pool party, that whole, lineup that people have been celebrating, that kind of falls by the wayside. The other thing is Andre Iguodala and Draymond Green. Draymond is obviously super, super impactful, but offensively, shooting wise, especially, he was certainly a weak link. And by forcing him to take 12 shots, that hurt the Warriors. You can't put him and Iguodala out there at the same time, I think, anymore, because that just gives the Celtics too many options to help off of. If you're gonna put those guys out there and say, all right, fine. If Iguodala finds a way to beat you over the course of an entire quarter, then congratulations. Same thing with Draymond as far as his shooting. And that lets you stay home on Clay and Steph and whoever else they throw out there, if it's Poole or if it's somebody else. So I do think the Warriors have some lineup questions to throw out there. There's also a question of Kevon Looney, who was great in the third quarter, but when the Celtics went super small, not a whole lot that he could do. He could make an impact on one end, but then he was getting tortured on the other end. So I do think that the Warriors have some issues.
Yep. And it's, it really hammers home like how much more of just like a basketball series this is than some of those Warriors teams of the past, right? Because like some of those Warriors teams of the past, it was like, there are no holes. There are no adjustments to make. What are you supposed to do? Like Kevin Durant's out there. What do you want me to do about this? So like it really does hammer home. Like it makes it more fun, right? Because some of these trade-offs are more interesting to watch. Like Jordan Poole probably is going to be better offensively. He's not going to get better defensively. Like this, if anytime he's out there, the Celtics are going right at him and he's not probably going to do much about it. So like that makes, I don't know, that just makes the basketball so much more fun to analyze and kind of think about when it's like, yeah, okay, like this isn't like a perfect basketball team anymore. It's an unbelievably dangerous one with a ton of championship experience and like, everything you could want in a finals, team, a finals opponent, but it's not, the unbelievable juggernaut of a few years ago, which is kind of entertaining.
No, it's not. I think lost in all of the Celtics shot making is how good their defense was in that fourth quarter. In my breakdown, there's one possession after Horford makes his second 3-pointer and the Celtics go up by 6. They come down the other end and have just an absolutely perfect defensive possession where Pritchard is all up, like living inside Steph Curry's shorts. Curry gives it all up to Clay. Jaylen Brown stays right in front of Clay. Then Tatum helps off of Draymond, slaps down, nearly steals the ball. Steph tries to cut across and get the ball, and Pritchard is right there. Then they get it over to Wiggins, and Derek White is just in front of Wiggins, no chance. And by the time it gets back out, it gets out to Draymond with 2 seconds left, and he's forced to take a 30-foot heave. And then at the end, Derek White, perfect box out so they can get the stop and they can get down the other end. That possession is hanging in a museum. Just absolutely beautiful defense. The Celtics had a couple of possessions like that. First of all, the fact that Pritchard's out there and able to do this and able to play tremendous defense. His fourth quarter was amazing, whether it was passing, setting a pick, hitting a shot, defending. He was critical to that fourth quarter success. Defensively, what the Celtics did down the stretch was as important as anything they did on offense. I think there are two elements to that fourth quarter, and we're all focusing on the 40-point part of it. And we're not focusing enough on really what was a 13-point fourth quarter. If you take away the late shot. Yeah.
And just like the adjustments that the Celtics made on Steph were so so crucial after that first quarter where he just blitzed them, and it was like, they looked so kind of confused. But I thought it was, it was interesting to watch them start to, jump out a little bit farther on the screens. Like, the dance that Rob Williams has to play in the pick and roll where he's like,
Yeah.
okay, I can stay back a little bit, but I can't stay back too far. If I stay back too far, Steph's going to get me. But if I come up a little bit, I can get out and block his shot because he's not that tall, and I'm Rob Williams. Like, I don't know, just kind of the pick and roll kind of dance that the Celtics had to play with Curry was really really fun to watch. I mean, I think that's going to be a lot of what this series is. And it's so much more basketball than like kind of the Heat series and the Bucks series. I know a bunch of people made this point on Twitter, but just like, like sometimes those series felt like football a little bit more, where it's just kind of like crash, like everybody just kind of hitting each other real hard. This series, like the Warriors play like a much, I don't know, more aesthetically pleasing brand of offense. There was one play where I think it was Draymond set the screen for Curry, and the fact that the Celtics had to go over the screen, Draymond is able to kind of hold them up on the top end of the screen and then cut to the basket and create a 4-on-3. That's just pretty basketball. And the Celtics found ways to gum that up defensively, which was also pretty basketball. Just a better series. I appreciate it quite a bit. Getting a chance to watch really high level basketball that looks a little bit more like the products that we're kind of used to seeing.
Yeah. I know David Aldridge wrote a great piece during the Bucks series where he said basically the ugliness of the playoffs is what makes the NBA beautiful. That you get out there and it's the fact that you can go out there and basically punch some dude in the solar plexus and get away with it. It's a very old school way, and I appreciate that as an old school person.
Yeah.
You didn't have to agree with it that well, that hard. Old school
No, but I get the point though too, because like I do like the contrast, right? Like it was pretty entertaining to kind of see that different style of very physical basketball. So, I have some old man tendencies, but I do appreciate this version.
Yes, but also this basketball that we're seeing right now after game one, it was always going to be a much more pleasing style because it is much more precise. It's about angles and speed and precision and communication and, a lot of strategy. It's getting the most out of a lot of guys. So that's fun. And in that vein, Marcus Smart, that mic'd up thing that where he was saying to these guys, which was amazing to me that they even let this in.
I was very surprised
because the mic'd up, for people that don't know, the dude's mic'd up for an entire game. He says a lot of things in these games, and there's basically a censor in the truck. It's like, nope, you can't use that. The fact that they let in the fact that he said, this isn't the Heat series, you can't drop this low. Like, whoa, okay, that was good. I loved it. Can I just tell you, one of my, like, if I had the genie 3 wishes, but I had to only make wishes that were unconventional, it would be to get all of the unaired, mic'd up stuff that the things that players really say to each other, especially from the KG era. Like, I've said this, I made this joke a million times, and I don't even think it's a joke. I think I know that this is true. Somewhere, somehow, there's some dude at NBA Entertainment, some old editor, and I've been in the TV business for a long time. I know how this goes. There's one dude that's worked there since the, freaking John Havlicek days. He started out editing film and now is on the cusp of retirement and is like still collecting the check. And he's just there, and he's got a folder that's labeled something nondescript, but in it is all the KG unused mic'd up gold. And just somewhere, somehow, I just want that to be released. But the fact that they allowed him to say that they allowed us to hear him say, this isn't the Heat series. You can't start out all the way back. You got to come all the way up and meet him basically at the top. And then you drop as he's dribbling and you draw him into the paint. That's how you play. Like, that is such like brilliant adjustment on the fly basketball. My reaction was like, Marcus Smart can be he'll probably be a good coach if he wants to be someday. But that little element, that little change was huge for the Celtics because they made the mistake in the first quarter of just playing Steph Curry all wrong.
Yeah.
And then they figured it out. And I think that contributed to Steph going cold after the first quarter.
It was funny that that first quarter, I mean, like every piece of analysis that you read, every bit of film that you watch is like, you have to stay attached to Steph. Like, even if that means you surrender the 4-on-3, you have to stay attached. Can't let this guy get going. First thing the Celtics do, were like, okay, drop coverage. Let's go. It's like, yeah, what do you think was going to happen? I mean, it wasn't like perfect.
Drop coverage like I was the one coming around the corner on the pick. You're like, yo, you can have that.
Yeah. And it wasn't like precisely drop coverage necessarily. I mean, it was, just kind of played a little lower and stuff like that. But like, regardless, it was just like even losing him, right? Like losing him in transition, not picking him up when he's wide open, like all this stuff. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, I know you watched a lot of film. You had several days. Like, it's also Steph, right? Like, I don't know how much film you need to watch to be like, guard that guy from three. So that was really kind of bizarre at first. But yeah, I mean, the adjustments were really good. I'm fascinated to see how they, just kind of having dealt with it now, having a little bit more experience under the belt. I think the Celtics will be a lot sharper in game two. I think that's the other thing about, like, if you're the Warriors, right? Like, everybody's going to be sharper in game two. Everybody kind of has a better sense of each other. The Celtics will too. Like, I don't doubt that the Warriors are going to be a lot better, but yeah, the Celtics aren't just going to come out and let Steph torch them for 21 in the first quarter. I mean, maybe he does again because he's Steph, but like, yeah, but it's not going to, I don't think it's going to be because the Celtics are in drop coverage this time around. So,
right. There's not going to be Derek White and Peyton Pritchard looking at each other like, I thought you, no, is that me? It's
yeah,
Steph.
I don't think they're going to let that happen again. Plus 2 days off to watch film in between the games.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited for game two. Just when you just said both teams are going to be sharper, like, it just made me think that this is going to be like, I've compared everything to boxing all along in these playoffs. And now I feel like this is going to be like a choreographed martial arts fight scene where all of a sudden, like for 10 minutes, it's going to be like Bruce Lee going against like whoever. And it's just going to be, sometimes you get hit and sometimes you get up and you're like, oh, I bleed my own blood. And then you go back and it's just going to be back and forth. And by the end, you're going to be like, oh my God, this was amazing. And somehow it's going to be some weird little twist that ends this game. I don't know what to expect. I really don't know what to expect in game two. Even like the shooting, Derek White can, you say, oh, but he's not going to keep shooting like that. But I don't know. He has been. The new dad strength is real, man. That new dad strength is legit. He's Fred VanVleet out there. He's been shooting like lights out since the kid came. I don't know. Marcus is up and down, but like you said, Horford in the playoffs has been great. So
yeah,
I will just say this: if the Warriors come out with that Draymond attitude, like we're fine, they won't be fine. And if the Celtics come out and are like, hey, we got game one, we're good, they won't be good. They'll get crushed. And at any point, any like minor little thing could be the thing that kind of like flips the rail and sets this series going down a different path. And it's just going to be wild to watch to see who makes that mistake or who makes that adjustment, who has that, performance that you're like, oh my God, is this person really doing this? Like that's going to be the fascinating part.
I almost wonder if playing against a player like Steph prevents you from kind of having like a, like an, okay, we're okay, we're fine type game, because like, you face the Heat, right? And there's like, it's not impossible for the Heat to just have a bad game and get blown out, because we saw that happen, right? And like, the Heat are not the Warriors. Like, like Smart said it, and he's right. Like, it's just, this isn't the Heat series anymore. like a player like Steph can destroy you. Like you have to be locked in at all times. Like it's not just like, it's wherever that guy is on the court, you have to be locked in. And I almost wonder if that, like, obviously that's exhausting mentally and physically to have to chase him around and always be just like, have an eye on somebody and an eye over here, and the Warriors are running split action. So like, your head's spinning at all times. But I do wonder if that's almost like, if that kind of prevents you from having a letdown game, because, you're not going to be throwing, maybe you're not going to be throwing lackadaisical passes like they did. You're always locked in because you have to be, because you're playing Steph Curry. So I don't know. It's a theory. It might not prove true, but it'd be kind of
it's a theory.
It's just kind of like the fact that you always have to be locked in on Steph kind of keeps you engaged.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right, because I think if there's one thing this Celtics team still has the propensity to do, it's mess around with prosperity.
Yes.
Yes. That's that.
They are very relatable in that whenever they have found money, they spend it immediately.
Oh my God. 100%. 100%. Once things are going great, man, they are like, oh yeah, we're good. Like that's been the one constant in all of this turnaround and all of this, January, blah, blah, blah. Knicks blown series, blown game. They still, when it comes to there's a large amount of messing around still, like with this team, that gives me a little bit of pause that, they might say, well, we did what we did what we were supposed to do. Yeah. I don't think so. But there is still like that little bit of doubt in me that's like,
because the Celtics have spent, to paraphrase a popular internet phrase, the Celtics, have, they mess around and find out, right?
Yeah.
They are yet to find out. They haven't found out yet. They've messed
true.
around a little bit and they are yet to find out. So that's the thing that gives you this little bit of like, is this going to bite them at some point?
Right.
But yeah, maybe they just kind of lock in a little bit better. They've gone through long stretches this season where they've been, completely locked in. So I don't know, maybe full health, maybe a little extra time off. Maybe it makes it a little bit easier to kind of stay engaged.
I think just about any result could be, like, they could come out on Sunday and just blow them out and be like, oh my God, wow, this Celtics team is not messing around. Right. I don't think so. I think the most likely thing on Sunday is going to be a tight game. And
yeah,
we'll see.
Yep.
All right. We'll wrap it up right there. Nice bonus podcast, a little something for folks on a Saturday back in New England or wherever people are listening. Enjoy this. Pop it on your speaker, pop it on your TV when you're out there having a nice Saturday, whatever. I appreciate you, Tom. Thanks for hopping on.
Appreciate you, man.
And that'll do it. Happy Saturday, everybody. Happy NBA Finals. If you are new to the podcast, just finding this out, and you're like, oh, wow, cool, Saturday podcast. Normally, we're a Monday through Friday podcast. Also, because some people have made the comments in the YouTube thing, after the season is over, because the season ends this month, like in 14 days. This season is over, one way or the other. The podcast is not over. I will be here through draft, which doesn't matter really for the Celtics, but it matters for the teams that the Celtics are facing, and we'll see how that reshapes the league potentially. There could be trades. You never know what's going to happen. Be here through free agency, because this is going to be an incredible summer for the Celtics, and who knows, maybe they're celebrating a championship that changes things. But I will be here throughout the course of the offseason. And hey, it's a short turnaround. So however this series goes, however the finals go, we'll be back for actual basketball in a blink. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, so you can watch the show if you want. If you want to pop it on your TV while you're making your dinner or something like that, cool thing to do. So subscribe if you are a regular listener, regular watcher. I hope that you are willing to share the podcast. Tell your friends, tell everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.